Discover the incredible transformation of spending one life-changing night in a hidden medieval wonderland. Jake leaned over the hood of a rusting truck, the oily smell of engine grease mixing with the fading light of day. Maple Grove felt like a ghost town, where dreams went to die slowly among the cracked sidewalks and boarded-up shops. His father's auto shop stood alone, a remnant of better times, and Jake, even at 28, couldn't shake the feeling that the engine he worked on was a reflection of his own stalled life. The clink of his tools sounded like a heartbeat, steady but monotonous. He loved the family legacy, yet deep within him lay the big, unexplored world, filled with sunlight and adventure. That slow afternoon took a turn when a brightly colored flyer fluttered into his hands. It advertised a medieval-themed event at the local community center. His first instinct was skepticism. It seemed ridiculous, but something inside him stirred. Curiosity lit the way like a firefly in the dusk. Could it really be an escape from this mundane life? When he finally entered the community center, it was an explosion of energy. Knights in shining armor, jesters juggling flaming torches, and villagers bustling about filled the room with vibrancy. Jake couldn't remember the last time he felt so alive. As laughter bounced off the walls, he spotted Tom, the war veteran with deep-set eyes, sharing stories of battles long past. Jake felt an emotional pang as Tom's words wove experiences of courage and loss, stripped of the heavy cloak of shame. Then there was Sarah, the single mother whose spirit flickered like a candle caught in a draft. The weight on her shoulders was palpable, but so was the fierce love for her son. As they shared laughs, Jake felt warmth swelling in his chest. With every tale exchanged, the burdens of their lives melted away, replaced by an unexpected camaraderie. But just as the atmosphere warmed like the embrace of a long-lost friend, a call from home shattered the moment. His family needed him. His younger sister, lost in the chaos of their crumbling household, had fallen into a troubling situation. Tension erupted like fireworks, old arguments and unspoken resentments igniting into a blazing storm of family turmoil. Did he owe his loyalty to them, or to the adventure his heart yearned for? Caught between family obligations and the thrill of newfound friendships, he felt lost. The laughter around him dulled against the backdrop of his family's cries for help. His heart raced, the sword prop glittering in his hands felt heavy, a symbol of the impending battle within him. Should he return home and bear the weight of his family's expectations, or dare to forge his own path? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air thickened with tension as laughter turned to murmurs of concern. Was he just another cog in his family's machine, or could he be a break from the cycle? Each face around him bore the weight of their struggles and victories. Jake stood on the tipping point of transformation. Would he cling to the familiar, or embrace the winds of change that beckoned him? What was the right path, and would he have the courage to walk it, sword in hand, ready to fight for his newfound dreams? As the evening faded, Jake felt the pull of his family's call almost tangibly in his gut, like an anchor tied around his heart. Every laugh, every story shared with Tom and Sarah felt like a beautiful distraction. Yet, as the community center filled with a symphony of joy, the chaos of his home life throbbed loudly in his mind. Could he genuinely enjoy this moment when everything back home felt so broken? Jake. Tom's voice cut through his thoughts. You should join the jousting contest. It'll be fun. There was a thrill in Tom's eyes, and a part of Jake wanted to dive into that joy. The whimsical setting made it feel like anything was possible. But as he watched people clanging plastic swords and laughing through faux battles, a wave of guilt crashed over him. His sister needed him. Maybe just a taste of adventure, Sarah suggested, her voice gentle. You could go home afterward. For a brief moment, every worry faded. Sarah's smile was contagious, lighting up her face. The warmth between them felt like a spark in the dark. All right, I'll join, Jake relented, the words tumbling from his lips before he could second-guess himself. He stepped forward, heart racing with the magic of being part of something. Just maybe, he could be a knight in shining armor, if only for a moment. The contest had begun. A crowd gathered, their cheers a mixture of laughter and excitement. Jake found himself at the center of it all, draped in a makeshift costume. He laughed, sparring with fellow participants, feeling alive, feeling free. Each clash of their plastic swords echoed a growing desire within him, a desire not just for adventure, but for the freedom to choose his own path. He remembered the heavy weight of his family's expectations, the cries of duty wrapped around him like chains. But here, surrounded by warriors, jesters, and the spirit of camaraderie, he could breathe. Then a familiar face stepped forward. It was one of his old friends, Lisa, with her eyes filled with concern. "Jake," she called, urgency in her tone. "I heard about your sister. She's in real trouble. We all need you back home." The world around him dulled as her words sank in, heavy and unyielding. Jake's heart sank. He glanced back at Sarah and Tom, who now looked at him with a mixture of concern and encouragement. Could he really step back from this moment? His mind raced. The laughter faded as the reality of his sister's situation gripped him tightly. Could he abandon this newfound exhilaration, the friends who had sparked something in him, for the needs of his family? The choice loomed grand in front of him, more than just about a jousting contest or a night in fairyland. It was about who he was and who he wanted to be. "Jake, we need you," Lisa pressed, her voice steady yet pleading. As he opened his mouth to respond, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd. A pseudo-knight had just toppled a fellow combatant in the jousting ring, sending them both sprawling into the thick grass. Jake blinked, realizing he felt the impulses of duality tugging at him. Where did his loyalties lie? Duty or desire? Just then, in the midst of his internal battle, he noticed a glimmer out of the corner of his eye, a hand reaching towards him with an offer. It was an invitation to join the next round of the contest. With each choice feeling heavier than the last, Jake's heart pounded loudly, echoing louder than the laughter around him. Would this moment push him toward the freedom he yearned for, or would it chain him back to the turmoil waiting at home? The moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation, yet fleeting. Jake felt time slow as he stood, torn and trembling, undecided. Then, he took a breath. What would his choice reveal about the man he was destined to become? The hand still hovered in the air, an invitation dangling like a thread, pulling at every part of Jake. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down, the laughter of the crowd mixing with the pounding of his heart. It was a simple gesture, yet it represented so much more. "Jake, please," Lisa's voice broke through his reverie, slicing through the fog of excitement and uncertainty. He looked back at her, at the worry creasing her brow. She had always been a friend through thick and thin, a reminder of the life he was torn from. The hands on the clock felt like the enemy here. Every tick was a reminder that time was slipping away. He stood between two worlds, the bright joy of laughter and friends, or the heavy shadows of responsibility and family. His gaze fell to Sarah and Tom, who were watching with hope, a silent plea in their eyes. Could he really lean into adventure right now? Was it betrayal to let himself enjoy something when his sister was in need of him? "Go!" Tom shouted, excitement fizzing in his voice, unaware of the gravity coiling around Jake's heart. "You can't let this slip away. It's just a game." Jake could almost see the potential outcomes play out in front of him. Swords clashing, joy bubbling, or the quiet despair waiting back home. The echoes of laughter from the crowd resonated deeper inside him. Could the laughter drown out the worry, even for just a few moments? Could the jousting be a temporary escape, or would that escape become another layer of guilt weighing him down? "Maybe this is what you need," Sarah said gently, tipping her head, like a perfect balance to his stormy thoughts. "A little bit of light to help you find your way." Suddenly, he felt the fierce tug of his younger self, a boy who had giggled with joy, who had pulled on a cape and charged into adventure without fear. That ache for freedom surged once more, igniting something deep within him. In that moment, Jake made a decision. This jousting contest, however trivial in the grand scheme of things, offered him more than just fun. It was an opportunity to reclaim a part of himself he'd lost. "I'll do it!" The words leaped from his mouth like a sudden spark. "I'm joining." A laugh of relief bubbled in his throat as he took a step forward, slipping away from the shadows of doubt. The crowd cheered, and the noise washed over him like a calming tide, wrapping him up in warmth. The lightning sky above felt like it was celebrating with him. With each step toward the contest ring, he felt lighter. Plastic sword in hand, he faced his opponents with a grin, shaking off the worry that had clung to him like a damp fog. The first clash was exhilarating, the rush of adrenaline igniting every nerve in his body. For the first time, he wasn't just battling others, he was battling fear, guilt, and the weight of expectations. As he danced across the grass, surrounded by laughter, he felt a glimmer of hope. Mid-battle, however, glancing to the sidelines, the sight of Lisa still standing, her worried eyes fixed on him, pulled him back momentarily. The joy he felt was bittersweet, a wild ride tethered to family burdens that lingered in the back of his mind. Finally, during a break in the contest, Jake sought Lisa out, breathless. "What's going on with her?" he asked, the thrill of the joust still coursing through him, unable to ignore the questions clawing at his heart. "She doesn't want to worry you, but if you wait too long," she hesitated, unable to finish. The implication hung heavy between them, reminding him that this was just a mask he wore for a moment of fun, and yet the crowd was calling him back. The next match was about to begin. The lingering pang of anxiety didn't just rest, it grew. He stood at a crossroads, each direction pulsing with urgency. He had a choice to make when the noise quieted and the cheers faded. Every thrum of his heart asked the question, would he let himself get swept away in joy, or would he be pulled back into the reality that awaited him? Jake clenched his jaw, eyes darting between the excitement of the jousting and the reality of home. No matter what decision he made, the impact would echo through every part of his life. Would he drown out the call of duty, or would he finally confront the truth of his family's struggle? Jake felt the chill of indecision creeping back in, pushing against the high from the jousting. The crowd's cheers swelled and swooped, a wave of delight that was intoxicating. Yet his thoughts turned heavy as he stared into the faces of his friends, the laughter fading into a dull roar in his ears. "Jake!" Tom's voice broke through again, bright and born of youthful exuberance. "They're waiting for you. You can't hang back now." The challenge sparked something within him. With his heart racing, Jake shook off the shadow of guilt gnawing at his insides. "All right," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. "Let us do this." He strode back to the center of the arena, determination fueling his steps. The other competitors stood ready, grinning and poised with their plastic swords, the sun catching the colors of their costumes like a kaleidoscope of joy. For the first time, he truly noticed the colorful banners fluttering above, the smell of popcorn wafting through the air, the warmth of the soft breeze brushing against his skin. It was intoxicating. As the disputes began again, Jake focused on the fight, letting his body flow with instinct. Each swing and clash of the swords brought not just excitement, but also a strange form of clarity. He laughed, truly laughed, as he dodged and parried, losing himself in the moment. But with every thrill came the echo of his sister's illness, a constant drum beating in the back of his mind. He felt that familiar twist in his gut, the realization that this joy came at a cost. What would it mean to his family if he stayed out here, lost to the glee of the crowd? Between matches, Jake stood panting, drinking in the cheers and feeling the warmth of approval envelop him. It was intoxicating, but that memory of Lisa's worried face loomed larger than life. He could sense the tether pulling him back. "Why are you even here?" he whispered, half to himself, half to the universe that didn't seem to answer. The next match was announced, and his heart raced like it was on fire. Every match propelled the stakes higher. He glanced over to where Lisa stood with Sarah, their faces marked with concern and admiration. They both were beacons of hope, but also a reminder of everything he left behind. He felt stretched thin, the fabric of joy blending dangerously with the pull of responsibility. With each clash, he fought not just against opponents, but also against the tide of regret weighing on his chest. In those fleeting moments, he gave in to the forgetfulness the game offered, laughing and parrying blows, feeling more alive than he had in what felt like an eternity. Yet, when he landed a hit on his closest friend, Tom, who fell back dramatically, he couldn't shake the fleeting guilt that washed over him. The joy was real, but the shadows were lurking, waiting for his next misstep. As the match concluded, Jake stood in the arena, heart pounding, but now it felt less like excitement and more like a promise unfulfilled. He took a deep breath, surveying the faces lit with joy around him, but his gaze caught Lisa's once more. She raised an eyebrow, silently urging him to see what he was avoiding. The crowd continued to cheer, and the noise pervaded his thoughts, but he couldn't help but feel like a jester, playing a part while his kingdom crumbled behind him. Can one night of revelry really shift the weight of family burdens? As he steadied himself for yet another match, he felt the ground beneath him tremble, as if the world was waiting to see which path he would choose next. What if the battle ahead was not just in the jousting ring, but in his heart and mind? Would he be able to face both roles and find a balance? The question sunk in as he raised his sword, preparing for the next combat, wondering if it was possible to clench joy while letting go of despair. And as the next opponent approached with sword drawn, Jake knew one truth: he was teetering on the edge of something that would change everything. Would he possess the strength to confront the greatest battle of all, his own heart? The clang of swords echoed in Jake's ears, a chaotic symphony of confidence and uncertainty. He stepped forward, heart hammering, muscles coiling with anticipation as he faced his new opponent. The thrill of combat surged within him, but that familiar ache in his chest persisted, a reminder that the stakes were much higher than any match. And then it happened again. In a flurry of movement, he parried a strike and countered with a flourish. The crowd roared, but all he could see was Lisa's face, a portrait of hope mixed with worry. He felt as if he were holding two worlds at once, one filled with laughter, the other haunted by the reality of illness at home. Each clash of swords felt like a conversation. The joy of being alive was speaking louder, but the worries were whispers that refused to be silenced. As Jake ducked and spun, he couldn't shake off the nagging question gnawing at him like a relentless predator. Was it worth it? Could a moment of joy justify the weight he was carrying? He landed another hit, eliciting cheers from the crowd. But afterward, he stood wide-eyed, panting and trembling, lost in the applause, yet grappling with the hollowness building inside him. He glanced again toward Lisa and saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her mouth turned down slightly. In an instinctual motion, he made a decision. Mid-match, he allowed himself to drop his weapon, raising his hands in unexpected surrender. The laughter halted, cheers dissolved into shock. His friend Tom, who had been the nearest combatant, hesitated, sword poised but confused. "Jake! What are you doing?" Tom called out, concern twisting his features. "I can't do this. Not like this," Jake shouted, the frustration and fear spilling from him like a broken dam. The moment felt electric, a vulnerability that shocked him and possibly even his friends. The heaviness crushed him, but it also felt liberating in that instant. Slowly, the crowd began to murmur, the noise vibrating through the air like an unsettled storm. A wave of tension coated the arena, yet something in the release of his sword freed the tightness in his chest. Jake took a few steps back, eyeing the crowd, searching for the comfort he didn't yet know he needed. He spotted Lisa and Sarah, and their expressions revealed a mix of pride and relief, yet fear still lingered in their eyes. "I'm sorry." Jake took a deep breath, hollering as much for himself as for them. "I thought I could leave everything behind, but I can't. I have to be there for her, for us." A murmur rippled through the spectators. It wasn't quite the end he had expected, but the release was palpable, a breath of fresh air coursing through him. He stood there, somewhat embarrassed but undeniably real, out in the open, free from pretense. As the crowd began to applaud slowly, then fervently, Jake turned to face Lisa, his heart racing not with the thrill of competition, but with the desire for connection. A sense of clarity dawned. "Jake!" Lisa shouted, her voice breaking through the haze. "It's okay. We're proud of you." But deep inside, he felt the old battle of commitment stirring again. Would this choice to pull back from the joy he found here cost him more than he understood? Stepping into a realm of uncertainty, Jake took a deep breath, feeling the mixed weight of relief and fear. And just as the crowd erupted in cheers again, he realized something vital. True strength might not come from winning battles in the arena, but from the courage to face the truths of his heart and the bonds that tethered him to his sister. As the echoes of applause filled the air, Jake stood resolute, contemplating the path he had just chosen. Would this decision lead him to a brighter future or tear apart the pieces of joy he had so desperately chased? The night was far from over, and as shadows stretched across the arena, a deeper conflict awaited him. The hardest choice of all lay ahead. Would he have the courage to embrace the journey into the unknown? The crowd's cheers gradually faded, replaced by a palpable tension as Jake stepped off the arena floor. The cacophony of swords and shouts transformed into an echo of uncertainty in his mind. Each step felt heavier, weighed down by the realization of what he had just done. He had surrendered. In the distance, Lisa and Sarah rushed forward, eyes wide with a mix of admiration and concern. As they reached him, Jake could see a fragile hope sparking in Lisa's gaze. It was a look that spoke of understanding, but also a question hanging in the air. What now? Jake, Lisa began, her voice steady yet soft. That took so much courage. You did the right thing. But Jake shook his head, unable to fully embrace the praise. I don't know if I did. I wanted to fight, but what if this was just me running away? Running away from what? Sarah chimed in, her brow furrowed. You're facing the biggest battle right now, the one at home. Maybe it's okay to let go of this part of you just for now. Jake glanced back at the arena, where the crowd was dispersing, laughter fading as the competitor's finale came to an end. Wasn't this place supposed to be where he found joy? Yet now it felt foreign, a physical reminder of a fight he didn't belong to anymore. As if sensing his turmoil, Lisa took his hand, her warmth grounding him. You can't do it all at once. This is about balance. We'll support each other through it. After a moment's hesitation, Jake nodded. It was a small gesture, but he felt lighter. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps the fight wasn't over. It was merely taking a new form. But what would that new form look like? Their conversation was interrupted by Tom, who approached, still wearing his armor. Jake, man, that was brave, he said, pulling him into a side hug. I didn't know if you'd ever step back again. I didn't either, Jake admitted, feeling a swell of gratitude for his friend's support. But in the midst of his relief, the anxiety about his sister returned, a lurking shadow that clouded the clarity he had just felt. As they began to turn away from the arena, a figure caught Jake's eye. A tall man in an intricately designed tunic, with an air about him that demanded attention, was standing at the entrance. His posture was firm, hands clasped behind his back, and he had been watching the scene unfold. What is he doing here? Jake whispered to Tom, pointing discreetly. Tom shrugged but narrowed his eyes. Don't know, but he looks important. Just look at that outfit. Before Jake could question further, the man stepped forward, cutting through the remnants of the crowd's chatter. Excuse me. His voice was deep, authoritative. I observed your display out there, young fighter. It was not just skill I saw, but resolve. How would you like an opportunity to truly make a difference? Jake exchanged glances with Lisa and Sarah, a mix of curiosity and uncertainty swirling inside him. What could this stranger want? And why was Jake suddenly at the center of this unexpected attention? His heart raced in anticipation, and the question lingered in the air, was this the new path he was afraid to embrace? Everything changes from here, doesn't it? Jake murmured, barely loud enough for his friends to hear. As the stranger approached, Jake felt the weight of new possibilities pressing against his chest. Would he have the courage to accept this chance, or would fear pull him back? The night seemed to stretch endlessly before him, and in the depths of uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited once more. Would he dare to step into whatever awaited him? Who are you? Jake asked, his voice shaky but firm. The crowd around them fell silent, sensing the shift in the air. A change was coming, heavy with anticipation. I am Alaric, the stranger replied, stepping closer. His eyes gleamed with an intensity that made Jake's heart skip. "And I am here to extend an offer to you. An opportunity to be part of something greater than what lies within these arena walls." "Something greater?" Lisa echoed, her voice tinged with disbelief. "What do you mean?" Alaric smiled, but there was something unyielding in his gaze. "The world beyond this city is facing unrest. There are struggles no one here knows about, the need for warriors who can fight for justice and hope. Your display of resolve today hasn't gone unnoticed." Jake felt a swirl of emotions, pride, confusion, and an undeniable longing for purpose. "But he paused, searching for words. "I just stepped back from a fight. How can I possibly join another?" "Sometimes stepping back is the bravest thing one can do," Alaric said, his voice steady. "It shows wisdom. But it also opens doors. You know more than anyone that true strength isn't just physical. It lies in the heart, in knowing when to fight and when to seek new paths." Their eyes met, and Jake could see the sincerity in Alaric's expression. "You may not feel ready now, but think of your sister. Think of your home. What if you could learn to wield a different kind of power? A power that could protect them?" The weight of those words landed heavily on him. He could picture his sister's smile, the way she fought to stay strong despite their family's turmoil. Was there really a way to fight for her that didn't involve blades and battles here? "What does this involve?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "You will travel with me, to train among others who share your burdens. You will learn strategies, skills beyond mere combat, how to unite, to lead. Each journey will bring you closer to discovering your true potential," Alaric explained. Jake's mind raced with images of adventure, companionship, and the possibility of being more than he ever imagined. Yet doubt nudged at him. "And what if I fail? What if I can't be the person everyone thinks I can be?" "Failure is a part of growth," Alaric stated with wisdom. "Every step back, every misstep on this new path will only help you find the right way forward. What matters is that you try." He glanced at Lisa and Sarah, who were watching him intently. Lisa offered him a small nod, an unspoken support that encouraged him to take the leap. "Okay," Jake said, feeling a rush of daring. "I'll do it. I'll go with you." Alaric's face lit up with approval. "Then prepare yourself, Jake. The journey ahead will test your spirit in ways you cannot yet imagine. But amidst those trials, treasure the bonds you form. The strength of friendship and loyalty can illuminate even the darkest paths." As they began to walk toward the exit of the arena, the excitement mingled with anxiety in Jake's gut. What awaited him out there? Adventure? Danger? He was ready for something different, yet the fear of the unknown clawed at him relentlessly. And just as they stepped outside, a loud crash echoed through the street, pulling their attention. A commotion was rising nearby, people shouting, and a figure sprawled on the ground. "Jake, wait!" Sarah called, grabbing his arm as he turned. "What if this is too much too soon?" But he felt a fire ignite in his chest, fueled by something new. "I can't just stand by. Not anymore." With that, he rushed forward, and as the thrill of urgency coursed through him, he wondered if this was just the beginning of a much larger fight. Would he find what he was meant to be in the chaos ahead? With uncertainty looming, Jake dove into the fray, ready to learn that the real battles were just starting. The chaos erupted like a storm, filling the air with shouts and urgency. Jake pushed past the crowd, his heart racing. He saw a man lying on the ground, surrounded by a circle of onlookers, their faces a mix of fear and curiosity. "Get back!" someone shouted, trying to clear space for what looked like a small group of medics. Jake's instincts kicked in. He shoved his way through the chaos, ignoring the tugging hand of Sarah behind him. As he reached the edge of the circle, he saw the frail figure, a man, blood trickling from his forehead, eyes fluttering as if he were caught between this world and the next. "What happened?" Jake asked, kneeling beside the man. The medics were assessing him with steady hands, murmuring urgent instructions to each other. He was attacked by one medic, started but was interrupted by another shout. The crowd surged forward, eyes wide, whispers rising like a wave. Jake's gut twisted at the thought of more violence. "Step back," Everyone needs to clear the area. A voice barked, but Jake felt incapable of moving. He was drawn to this individual, pulled by a force he couldn't explain. It wasn't just curiosity. It felt personal. What do I do? Jake blurted out, looking at the medics who were focused and calm. Apply pressure here, one of them instructed, motioning towards the man's arm where a gash had opened. Jake hesitated but then leaned forward, pressing his hands down gently, feeling the warmth of blood seep through his fingers. In that moment, Jake felt the weight of responsibility land heavily on his shoulders. Out there, the world was more than just an arena filled with fights. Here, life hung in the balance. The fear he'd felt moments before morphed into something fierce. This was what he could do. He might not wield a sword just yet, but he could protect. The man stirred again, eyes focusing on Jake. Help, he whispered, almost inaudibly. Jake's heart raced at the plea. You're going to be okay. Hold on, he urged, locking eyes with the medic. What else can I do? Just keep applying pressure. We're almost there, the medic replied, moving quickly to retrieve supplies. Panic gripped Jake's heart a little less tightly now. He felt a surge of determination. The fight wasn't always about physical confrontations. Sometimes, it was about saving lives. As the medics worked, the crowd's emotions shifted from fear to respect. People whispered encouragement, stepping back to let the professionals do their job. It was a strange moment of unity amidst the chaos and understanding that they were all part of something larger than themselves. Then Jake felt it, a hand on his shoulder. He glanced up to see Alaric standing just behind him, a mixture of pride and caution in his gaze. You're learning quickly, Alaric said, his voice low enough for only Jake to hear. This is as much a part of your journey as any training. Jake nodded, finding strength in that acknowledgement. As always, it wasn't just about him. It was about those around him, and he knew he had to do more. Will you fight for them? Alaric continued softly, not with swords, but with your heart? That question lodged itself in Jake's mind, sparking a fire within him. The reality of his journey was taking shape, and he felt it in every beat of his heart. Maybe this was the battle he was meant to fight, the fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Before he could reply, the medics finished their work, stabilizing the injured man as they prepared to lift him onto a stretcher. The crowd breathed a collective sigh of relief. Jake remained focused, feeling the moment shift. But just as the medics moved forward, a shout echoed, sharper than the rest. A figure darted through the crowd, a flash of leather and intent. They moved like a shadow, eyes fixed on the fallen man. Stop! You don't know what you're doing! Someone called out, but it was already too late. Jake's blood ran cold. What now? The fight wasn't over, and he felt a rush of urgency surge through him again. Would they really need to stand strong together in the face of danger once more? With every ounce of resolve he had, Jake stepped forward, ready to protect not just the fallen man, but everyone around him. This chaotic dance of fate was only beginning. The battle for hope and justice had more chapters to unfold. What if, in this moment, Jake could be more than a bystander? What if he could become the hero everyone needed? Jake's instincts kicked in, a primal urge rising to meet the incoming threat. He could see the figure rushing into their space, a wild energy in their movements. The crowd parted, gasps echoing in the air. The medics trembled, some instinctively reaching for their equipment. Get down! One of them shouted, positioning himself protectively over the fallen man. The new arrival was a woman, cloak billowing behind her like a storm. Her dark hair whipped around her face as she lunged, eyes fierce and intent. Jake's heart raced, torn between protecting the injured man and confronting the danger advancing on them. Wait! You can't! Jake called out, taking a step closer. But the woman had already slipped through the medics and reached the man, dropping to her knees beside him. Please don't do this! She begged, her voice sharp but tinged with desperation as she pressed her hands against his chest. The urgency in her eyes told Jake that this was more than just impulsiveness, this was personal. What do you think you're doing? Jake shouted, a protective fire igniting within him. The crowd murmured, tension hanging in the air like a storm cloud just waiting to burst. I have to save him, the woman replied, frantic, glancing back at Jake, her gaze wild with intent. You don't understand. They'll all come for him if I don't act now. Jake shook his head, confusion and fear swirling inside him. Who was this woman, and what did she know? You're making it worse. He needs medical help. The medics were trying to pull her away, but she resisted, her desperation overcast with defiance. Jake felt his resolve harden. He understood the need to protect, but this felt wrong, a place where emotion overshadowed reason. Suddenly, the woman grabbed a small vial from her cloak, and Jake's heart raced as he recognized it, a familiar glimmer that had haunted his dreams. No! He yelled, instinctively reaching out to stop her. But she was faster. She uncorked the vial and poured it over the wounded man, the liquid shimmering like sunlight, a hum of energy resonating through the air. The crowd gasped collectively. Jake watched, entranced yet terrified, as the blood on the man's forehead shimmered briefly before settling down. Get away from him! A medic shouted, lunging forward, but Jake blocked the path, standing firm. Wait! He urged, eyes locked on the woman who was now kneeling, hands clasped in silent prayer. There was something ancient, something compelling about this moment of force that felt inexplicably right, despite the chaos surrounding them. With a sudden gasp, the man's eyelids flickered open. A murmur ran through the crowd. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The glimmer of the woman's vial sparked an energy, coursing through the man. He stared wide-eyed at her, bewildered. Who are you? He croaked, voice raw yet filled with strange strength. I'm here to help you, she said softly, her expression softening, a fierce resolve replacing the fear. As confusion swirled in Jake's head, he pondered Alaric's words. This moment was a turning point, one that demanded more than courage. It was a moment of faith in each other, in the power of human connection and compassion. Suddenly, from the shadows, more figures emerged, each a harbinger of the chaos that had been simmering beneath the surface. The crowd's murmurs shifted to fearful whispers as tension hung palpably in the air once again. That's them! Someone cried. They're coming for him! Jake's heart pounded, the urgency rushing back like a tidal wave. He couldn't let fear dictate the outcome. He could not, would not, become a bystander again. Stand firm! He shouted, setting his jaw as he faced the dark figures advancing like ghosts of misfortune. Not here! Not now! With that declaration echoing in his ears, Jake felt something profound stir within him. The battle was far from over, but it was a battle he was willing to fight. Would he find the strength to rise against this new threat? Would he stand not only for the fallen man but for a cause that transcended fear? The crowd parted like a curtain, revealing the advancing figures. Shadows danced across the street, cloaked in a menacing silence that weighed heavily on Jake's shoulders. Adrenaline surged through him, igniting a fierce determination. He locked eyes with Lisa and Sarah, who stood frozen in place, their expressions a mix of horror and awe. They both seemed to understand the gravity of the moment. Jake turned back to the woman with the glowing vial, who was now standing resolutely beside him. What do we do? He asked, his voice fierce but tinged with vulnerability. She met his gaze, her eyes firm. We protect him. We protect all of them. As the cloaked figures drew closer, Jake felt every heartbeat like a drum of war urging him forward. Everyone, gather around the medic! He shouted, thrusting himself into action. The crowd remained caught between terror and reverence for Jake's bravery, but slowly they began to shift. Those close enough formed a protective circle around the fallen man. Listen to me, Jake continued, adopting a commanding tone he didn't know he possessed. We're together in this. If we stand firm, we create a boundary, a barrier against whatever darkness approaches. The murmurs hushed to a tense quiet, and the crowd began to rally. Couples and families instinctively took hold of each other, weaving a fabric of unity born from desperation. In that moment of fear, Jake felt stronger than he ever had before, buoyed by a sense of community. What is their goal? Jake demanded, shifting focus back to the woman. She took a deep breath, her resolve apparent. They want him back. They seek to take those who hold power, whether in control or beyond. It's about domination, Jake. Then we want to let them, he declared, and the words ignited something within the group. A ripple of anger and determination sparked in the crowd. People stood taller, shoulders squared. From the front of their circle, Tom emerged, brandishing a broomstick like a makeshift weapon. "Ain't no way they're getting through us," he shouted, emboldening others to follow suit. People grabbed whatever they could, umbrellas, bags, even small benches, and readied themselves. They might not have swords or armor, but they had hearts, determination, and the spirit of a united front. "Get ready!" Jake called as he felt fierceness clawing through his excitement. The figures loomed ever closer, their intent unmistakable. "Stand your ground. Fight for the ones you love." As the first shadow lunged, time seemed to slow. Chaos broke like a dam as people surged forward in a chorus of battle cries. Jake led the charge, propelled by passion and commitment. They were no longer merely bystanders, they were warriors writing their own fate. The skirmish erupted with makeshift weapons clashing and voices rising, swirling into an anthem of defiance. Jake's heart pounded wildly as he swung his own improvised weapon, meeting the first adversary head-on. It was wild, it was chaotic, but it was real. And deep down, he knew it was a reflection of everything he'd fought for within himself. They moved fluidly as a unit, each person carving out space and hope in the fray. Jake found himself instinctively protecting the fallen man, aware that this wasn't just a fight against a physical enemy. It was a metaphorical clash against everything that had previously held him back. In the chaos, he caught sight of Alaric standing at the edge of the fray, watching closely with an approving nod. It struck Jake in that instant the awareness that this was the fight worth having. Not merely a struggle for power or dominance, but a battle for the heart and soul of his community. In an explosive moment that felt like a crescendo of life, Jake saw their numbers swell. A light sparked in the crowd, illuminating the courage in each heart. Together, they became a force to be reckoned with. The insidious approach of the attackers faded under their shared resolve, their whispers nothing more than a distant concern. With one final push, the figures retreated, dark shadows lifting under the collective strength emanating from the determined crowd. Cheers erupted, echoing against buildings and valleys, a testament to triumph against uncertainty. Jake stood amidst the cheering throng, exhilaration melding with the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. He looked around, the faces of friends and strangers shining with camaraderie. A lightness filled him with every heart pounding beside him, every soul united. He felt the iron grip of uncertainty loosen. "Thank you?" the girl with the vial exclaimed, breathless but victorious, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. They had protected more than just a man. They had unearthed a deeper battle within themselves, a struggle for belonging, the yearning to fight for their future. Jake felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes as laughter swept through the crowd, the applause rising like a wave of hope. Every moment before this flickered in his mind the weariness, the conflicts, the struggle for dreams. Suddenly it all clicked. "We must keep fighting for more," Jake shouted, rallying the crowd once more. "Together, we can forge a world filled with compassion, unity, and justice." As they echoed his words, he realized how far he had come from the rusting truck in Maple Grove to standing amid a community ignited by hope. He glanced at Lisa and Sarah, who stood nearby, their eyes wide with exhilaration. This was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but surrounded by this family forged in the fires of struggle, Jake knew they could face anything. They were knights in shining armor, wielding the greatest weapon of all, love. Energized and resolute, Jake embraced the possibilities of the future. He had not just transformed, he had ignited a revolution built on empathy and strength. And as the crowd roared, he felt the weight of the world shift in a new direction, one that flowed with hope. Now, go forth, step into the adventures that await, and remember, it's always the collective, the unified that triumphs. This is when we rise. And hey, if you loved this story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for all the hard work that goes into these narratives. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The only way we grow and reach more hearts is by standing as one community. Let us rise together.